Hello, hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, SB. I'm so glad that you are back. And today we are working on this beautiful pattern from the Tatting Book. And this is a pattern from 1938. And the pattern number is number 8141. This is the pattern that you guys get to join me in making. And it's really, really easy to do. It is just repeating rings in a chain. That's it. And this is actually meant to be an insertion. So this is meant to go in between two pieces of fabric. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to suggest that if you're going to do this pattern, you have some way of measuring your picots, because we are definitely going to need the picots to be big enough, because as you can see here, these are all attached together. So as you can see, this is where we are joining our rings together. So yeah, it'll make more sense once we get into it. And I am just using some white crochet thread today. You're gonna need some means of measuring your picots. So we're gonna go to the third step on our picot gauge for all of our picots, and that is about 1 centimeter wide. And we are just going to be working off of the ball thread. We are not going to be working off the needle thread or making true rings or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started with the pattern, and we are going to work rings 1 through 3, which are all worked the same. So let's do 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches. And what I find while I'm working these first 3 rings is that I tend to do these rings too tightly. So just keep an eye on your tension when you are working these, and try to make sure that all of your rings are very similar in your tension. I think it's just because, you're just starting out tatting, maybe you haven't tat for a few days, or this is like your first project that you're doing. As you work, your tension tends to get a little looser. Okay, there is my 10. So after your first 2 rings, you are not going to reverse your work. So just simply close your work. Let's close this ring. Do not reverse your work, and we're simply going to tie off our ring like we normally do. So in order to close off our ring without reversing our work, we are going to simply just hold our needle in our dominant hand as usual. We're going to go under the ball thread with our needle, and we are going to go over it. So we're going to twist our needle over the ball thread and under the needle thread. Needle under ball thread, twist it over the ball thread and under the needle thread, and then pass it through. And that's going to give you a knot. And it's going to look very similar to a half knot or a half stitch that we work, off of the needle, which is pretty neat. Okay, and that's usually all I do. You can make another knot if you'd like, but I think 1 knot is sufficient. Okay, so on to ring 2. Ring 2 is the same process, 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches. And do not reverse your work after you complete this ring. So once you get your second ring or all of your stitches on your needle, you're going to notice that your other ring is going to want to kind of flop around. So what I usually do is I kind of try to hold it with my fingers as I'm closing. Now this can be a little fiddly, but as long as you kind of hold it like this in your hand, it'll be okay. And go slow so that way nothing flips too terribly. And yeah, here is a knot, of course, that happens, especially when you're using crochet thread, because crochet thread likes to turn in on itself. And if you find it helpful, put it down on a desk and just get everything situated where it needs to go. I find that does help sometimes. It kind of stops your work from wanting to curl. There we go. I'm just trying to make sure that my rings are staying where they need to stay. There we go. As you can see, there is ring 2 complete. Let's go ahead and close off our ring. Once again, do not reverse your work. Let's close this off. There we go. On to ring 3. Ring 3 is exactly the same. So 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches. And after ring 3, we will be reversing our work. All right, let's go ahead and close our 3rd ring. And like I said earlier, we are going to reverse our work after the 3rd ring. All right, so this is what you should have so far. So ring 1, 2, and 3. 3rd ring, we are going to reverse our work. So let's go ahead and reverse. And let's go ahead and tie off that ring. There we go. And now we're going to be working a chain. But before we work our chain, we are going to want to kind of join our 3rd and our 1st ring together. So we are going to have to go into our 1st ring, and what I like to do is just go into basically where we tied our knot to close off our ring. So from the back to the front, we're just going to find that knot and just push your needle on through. Pull your needle thread all the way through, being sure that nothing gets trapped or caught like mine did. Pull it through, and you don't want to pull it too tight because we want these rings to kind of look a little separated. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a simple single knot just to keep that together. And now you'll have like a tiny, tiny little hole right in the middle, and your rings won't be flopping around everywhere. So now let's go ahead and work our chain. And the chain is real simple. We are simply going to have 3 picots separated by 5 double stitches. And once again, when you're doing your picots, make sure to make them all the same width by either using a picot gauge or some other method. So let's continue doing our chain. Let's go ahead and close our chain. Okay, after you get your chain complete, let's reverse our work. And with this one, I tend to put it down on a flat surface and just give it a little bit of a tightening. Because what I found is that this likes to flop around all over the place. So now I'm going to go ahead and tie this off. There is our first cluster of rings and our chain complete. So we just reversed our work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start over with ring 1, but this time we are going to join to ring 3. So ring 1, 2, and 3. So ring 1 and ring 3 will be joined together at the picot. So 10 double stitches. And join to the adjacent ring at the picot. Ten double stitches. Two. Let's go ahead and close our work, and we are not reversing after this ring. Go ahead and lock that ring in place. And we are going to continue on to ring 2 once again. We're just repeating rings 1 and 2 and 3. Just adding a join in between. So 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches. So hopefully you are picking up the repeating pattern that we are doing here. Like I said, it is really, really simple, super easy, and it looks super elegant. Remember not to reverse your work after your first 2 rings. Ring 3, 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches. Remember, after the 3rd ring that you complete, we are going to be reversing our work. Okay, so let's reverse our work. Go ahead and tie our ring off so that we have everything in the right position. So once you reach this point, we are going to once again go into our first ring right at the base of it. So you can see where the ring meets up. We're going to go in the base of it from the back to the front. Put your needle through and pull your thread all the way through. And I know that's kind of hard to see, but now we kind of have this little hole in between our stitches. Let's go ahead and tie this off. If I can, come on. Tie that off. And we want to leave that little gap in between our cluster of 3 rings. And now we're going to work our chain all over again. So let's go ahead and work our chain. And this is just going to be the repeating pattern until you get the length that you want. So the repeat is your 3 rings and your chain, being sure to reverse your work after the 3rd ring and your chain. So once you get the length that you want, you are going to cut your work, and we are going to make the other half of this pretty lace, and I will be back whenever I complete mine and I'll show you how to join everything together. It is basically the same pattern except you are joining and you are starting in a different spot where you join. So yes, I'll be back when I complete that. So once you reach your length, we are going to end with our 3rd ring, tying it off, making sure it's secure, and joining to the 1st ring in your last cluster, just the way we've been doing throughout this whole pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Show you one more time. There we go. Go ahead and tie that off. And on this last one, what I like to do is add another knot just to make sure that it's going to be secured. And then we will cut our thread and secure our ends here. So let's go ahead and weave in our ends. And I just simply go through my double stitches wherever it is convenient. Let's cut that. Cut that a little bit closer. There we go. Weave in this end. Right here. And I'm going to go through the opposite ring. Just like that. Pull it through. Now we are going to